Hello and welcome to another episode of the Construction Corner podcast. I'm Dylan, I'm your host. And guys, today we are going to be talking about bid day. And bid day is a continual experiment in practical psychology. This is such a great topic to talk about, as bid day is everybody's biggest concern. Now, if you're doing traditional design bid build, it's probably not that big a concern if you're an architect or an engineer. I know for me, it wasn't really that big of a concern. We did deal with it somewhat from a kind of pre-bid standpoint, budgetary standpoint, what we needed to value engineer. But bid day was not our biggest deal. But now, being on the design build side of things, bid day is something that we have to consider. So bid day is the biggest mind game in construction. Do you give a real number? Do you go low and then make changes need to happen on the project? Do you bid what's here, have your normal margin on the job, and see what happens? Or are you desperate and in need of work? Is it the right thing to lose, or is it more ethical to win the project and give them what they asked for? Are ethics even involved? See, construction has many separate parts. Even those in the same company aren't necessarily connected. This leads to different choices at each stage of the project. For example, take a pre-con manager at a general contractor. They're neck deep in the project and all those details. Then on bid day, they decide via some spreadsheet. To them, this is the most effective way to determine their specialty contractors. There's no way for the pre-con manager to analyze each bid with a fine-tooth comb. And if you do have a derivation from the drawings, make that clear upfront and don't bury the lead. What I mean here is that pre-con manager isn't going to review every single detail, every single inch of the projects. They are just looking at the bids, the numbers, putting in the spreadsheet and making a decision from there. And all these questions that I asked up top, right? Do you go low and then make changes and change order to the project for what needs to happen on it? Do you just bid what's on the drawings and with your normal margin and see what happens? Right? Like, you just roll the dice. You're not trying to play any games. You're just straightforward with it. That's an option. Are you desperate and need to work? So you're going to lowball it, undercut it, and try to win as much as you can. Right? Or is it the right thing to lose? And what I mean by this is, in some cases, you doing the right thing means you're most likely going to lose the project. But is that ethical? Is that standing by your guys because you're losing the project because you put all this additional cost in to do the right thing? Is that the right way to go? Or is it more ethical to win the project and then have the conversations with the general contractor and owner that you couldn't have pre-bid, right? What are those questions and conundrums, and what does that mean, and how are you going to move forward and do that? So all of these things are big questions to ask come bid day, right? And how you approach each and every one of your projects. So now on a project, right, kind of no matter what, again, this is more geared towards a specialty contractor, but you have two folks to make happy if you'd like to continue working on their projects. You have to make the pre-con manager happy by giving them a number that wins on bid day. That means that you match what's on the drawings, most likely, and we'll cover that in design build later in another episode, because design build has less information. You're not matching things that are on the drawing. You're kind of put forward design, especially when it comes to MEP trades. So totally different deal versus what's on the drawings. Now, if you're wall, ceiling, floor, anything to do with architecture, contractor, that is going to be handled in drawings. It just is. Same with structure. So and then there's the project manager, right? So you got the pre-con manager and the project manager. Project manager handles all the changes and issues that are on that project. Those are two different people to make happy in two very different scenarios. Because it just becomes a little tricky. You don't want to bombard the PM with change orders because that doesn't look good. And because you now gave him a ton of work instead of making his life easier, leaving a bad taste in his mouth of your firm. Since there are more projects decided by who we want to work with than anything else, it's not that your number was bad or the next one. It's that you just didn't get invited to the next project. So really important thing here to note is Doing what's right requires change orders, which now requires works on the PM's part. And when handled well, it is the best course of action. But it's kind of a rock and a hard place scenario. Not presenting them isn't the right thing to do, and presenting them can be uncomfortable. So the bottom line here is that construction is filled with uncomfortable scenarios, tough conversations about something that isn't right and needs to be fixed, and you should do that sooner rather than later. And before we get to the quick subpoint on hard conversations, so here you've got a pre-con manager who needs a good number, but a project manager who wants the project to flow smoothly without change orders. These are kind of in direct conflict of interest between the two. A good pre-con manager will sort through a lot of these things, but that doesn't happen because then that requires drawing changes, and it's not something that they necessarily have control over, especially on a design, bid, build project. The general contractor has just received the drawings. They don't really have control of what's on the drawings. And then they're bidding it out and getting bids on that and then executing the work. So you have in this scenario two kind of diametrically opposed forces where the pre-con wants the best and cheapest bids to make the owner happy, make sure that they're under budget. And then the project manager wants the project to flow smoothly without any changes, right? But to execute that effectively, if there was something wrong with the drawings or something wasn't done right, or they run into other existing conditions that nobody knew about, which you can't really foresee, other than you can foresee that you can foresee something happening, but you don't know what. That's just part of the game. So understanding that these are kind of opposed and you need to make both happy. You need a good number, and then you need to be able to execute effectively on the project to make that project manager's job much easier. So this quick subpoint on hard conversations. If you bring changes forward, especially on the front end of a project, you best have solutions. Here's what the drawing said, but that can't work because of X, Y, Z. And this is what we propose to do, and it will be ABC, right? Give a solution whenever you're presented with a problem. And the more you do this, the more effective that you're going to be and the happier everybody's going to be with you on those projects. Because a little bit of pain in the beginning will make it much better in the end. Resolve problems early so that they don't linger through a project. Those lingering problems, even when minor, are a huge inconvenience to the project. A strong finish is the last impression on the team. That leaves them with a good feeling and helps to get you invited back for the next one. It's called recency bias, also known as what have you done for me lately? So remember this, that people are judging you by kind of the end and close out of the project and probably that last quarter of a project, making sure that everything goes smoothly and you get through it well. Even though if things get off to a rocky start, you can still finish strong and have a great end of your project. And know that no project is perfect. Both situations aren't always easy to go through. They are on the other side of a tough conversation. And those tough conversations are going to happen on pretty much each and every project. And the best course I found is when you know there's a problem, find a solution or two or three and present those forward. Outline the course of action, get everyone on board, make a decision, and get everyone on the same page from bid day to certificate of occupancy. So bid day is going to have all these mind games on what you're going to play, what your numbers are going to be, and whether you're going to win that project. So think about the type of game that you want to play, understand that it is a game on bid day, and figure out how you're going to win. That being said, that's this episode of the Construction Corner podcast. Make sure to share the show if you found this beneficial and helpful for you when it comes to your bid day plans. Until next time.